Hey, welcome everybody. I'm Coach Susan here on Leslie Vernick's public page. I'm trying also to go live on Instagram. How's everybody today? Do we have anyone watching so far? I hope you're joining in with this topic that we have today, how to say no without the guilt of disappointing others. So I wonder what are your thoughts about that? Why have you tuned in today regarding this topic? And I'm still struggling to go live on Instagram. Hey, Missy. Excuse me. My voice is hoarse today. Thanks for that wave. And maybe you're new today, so I would love to say hello to you if you're new. Hey, Cassandra. Welcome. I know oftentimes we get a lot of familiar faces, people tuning in, and I love to see you. Those of you who are here, where are you watching from? And if you're new, put new into the chat. Hey, and I'm still struggling to go live on Instagram, so bear with me. And please communicate in the chat with me. I'm here by myself today, which is not my favorite thing, but I'm happy to be here with you about this important topic. Wow, Pam, you caught a live from Ontario. Welcome. Glad to have you here. And all right, maybe we are not going to be going live on Instagram. I'm not really sure. If you can see me on Instagram, please let me know. All right. Hi from Redding, Arizona. Welcome. It's a beautiful day where I am, and I think it's gearing up to be even more beautiful with high UVs and lots of sunshine, which I love. So welcome to June. Here we are, June 2nd. Hey, Eileen. Glad to be here with you as well. So I know this is probably a topic that is dear to many of your hearts. How to say no without the guilt of disappointing others. Are you struggling with that yourself? How to say no? Do you feel compelled to say yes before you give yourself some time to think about it? Do you feel like it is your obligation, maybe as a Christian woman, to say yes as much as possible? And I want to ask you this question. So is this true or false? So I've got many of you watching at this point. Does your value get measured by how much you give to others? Would you say that that is a true statement or a false statement? My value is measured by how much I give to others. What are your thoughts on that? True or false? I would love to have you weigh in on this. And if you do have a topic for me regarding how to say no without the guilt of disappointing others, I would encourage you to go to leslievernick.com/question/ our tech team is helping you. Tamara, false. Okay. Thank you for weighing in on that. False. Now, my question to you is, do you live as if that's false? So where does your value come from if it's not from how much you give to others? Where does your value come from? Your first response is a yes, it's true. When thinking about it, I like it to be a no. Okay, thank you for your honesty, Elizabeth. So you may have a knee-jerk reaction of yes, but I want you to kind of sit with that. My value is measured by how much I give to others. And many of you in this community may have a faith. Perhaps you read scripture And so you're coming from that vantage point about value. Okay, Tamar says false. Got a couple of false. One wishes it to be false, but thinks it might be true. What other thoughts do you have? So where would your value come from if it's not from how much you give to others? Your value comes from the Lord. Thank you, Wendy. So if you're a Bible believing person, if you believe in our Lord Jesus Christ, that may be your answer. Barbara, false. I learned the hard way. I would love to hear more of your story about that. Of what was that learning like for you? It comes from existing. Your value comes from existing. Yes, your value comes from what the Creator put inside of you. That's right. Just the fact that you're here on earth, that you exist, that He knew you before you had a name. He put value in you. Your value is from your Creator. Thank you. And the one who loves you endlessly. Yes. And so that is the truth. But oftentimes, when I work with women in particular, and men as well, but when I'm working with women in this community, they often live as if their value is measured by how much they give to others, which prompts them to say yes. And then it prompts them also to feel guilt if they say no, or if others are disappointed in them. So do you see the connection here? Is that if your belief is my value comes from how much I give to others, when you go against that belief, you're going to feel guilt, right? Guilt is meant to be a useful tool in our life. It's an emotion that is there to guide us. And guilt causes you then to evaluate and turn direction. If you're not in alignment with who you want to be and who God calls you to be, then guilt is useful in causing you to turn. But what if what you're basing your belief system on is false? Is it guilt? If you don't need to shift in your thinking, is it really guilt? Yeah, some great comments in the chat. You are fearfully and wonderfully made. Absolutely. Yes. And so do you still have value if you say no to doing something for someone else? So Kimberly, thank you for that comment. My love language is gifts and giving, and it's hard to know limits. Yes. And how would you know limits? What would help you to know what are the limits? Who gets to define the limits? And how would you know what they are? I'm wondering your thoughts in particular, Kimberly, but many of you may be resonating with her statement, is that you get a lot of joy out of giving and serving for others. And so that's the way you love. But how would you know your limits? And so if you'd like to speak into this more, you're welcome to put your thoughts into the chat. This is a public forum where anybody can read what you're putting in. So if you would like to get something to me anonymously, you can go to leslievernick.com/question/ and I would be really happy to read your questions around this topic. So if other people are disappointed, is it your job to fix that? What are your thoughts on that? If you have the ability to take away someone's disappointment, should you do it? Is that your job to manage other people's feelings of disappointment? Tammy says, no, thank you for that. And as far as knowing your limits, Kimberly, thank you. Listening to your body helps. Absolutely. Tuning into what your body sensations are telling you. So I shared with you, emotions are meant to serve you, not just to be annoyances or to get in the way. They're meant to serve you and to kind of direct you in your path, what needs to happen. And so does your body help give you information. And so it's helpful to be in tune with what's going on within you. So part of your limits may be getting enough sleep. Yes. And part of your limits also is knowing what is yours to carry and what is not yours. So Tammy's saying someone else's disappointment is not yours to carry. Okay. So we're getting some clarity here because I think talking about these topics can be helpful. When we speak them out clearly, it can bring new thoughts, new ways of thinking to your mind, and to pull what might be unconscious into the conscious mind. So some of you are saying my value is measured by how much I give to others. Feels true, but when you think about it, you can say it's false. That's why we're talking about these things, because we want to really bring attention to that. So knowing that other people's emotions are not yours to carry is important, but how often do you act like they are yours to carry? How often do you move in to rescue somebody who's in sadness, who's feeling disappointed, who's feeling frustrated? And in that way, you begin to manage their own emotions. And you may be telling yourself, I'm just being helpful. I'm just serving because that's my love language. And so it takes a moment to kind of figure out, is that actually what I'm doing? Am I serving them by managing their emotions for them? Is it helpful that I do that? That's a question that I have for you. What are your thoughts on that? Is that really loving? And is it helpful? So Pam says it depends. I'm responsible for what I feel is right, not responsible for others' emotions. Some people use your faith against you, especially when there's silent agreement dynamics within the family. Absolutely. I would agree with that, and I see it happening all the time. People will use your faith against you, but I want you to get clear on what is the truth of your faith. What does Scripture really tell you? So is Scripture telling you that you need to manage other people's emotions? Is it telling you that to have value, you need to say yes all the time? So get clear so that other people aren't able to twist or use partial truths to confuse you. And if there are silent agreement dynamics in your family, don't leave them in silence. Start bringing them out and bringing clarity to them. Clarity is kindness, ladies. When we live by silent agreements, I don't believe that's helpful to anybody. It leads to vagueness, ambiguity, and those things are not kind in relationships. And sometimes those silent agreements are ways to avoid or control others. And that leads to frustration. It leads to poor relationship, unhealthy relationship. Yeah, so you may be guilt tripped. Guilt tripped is when somebody tells you you should feel guilt, and then you take it on as if they're right. I'm feeling guilty. So if guilt is a helpful emotion that tells you you're out of alignment with who you want to be and who God is calling you to be, is it true? Or if somebody hands you a guilt trip and tells you you're out of alignment, do they get to decide? Or do you get to decide? So that what they may be saying when they're handing you a guilt trip is you should feel guilty because you're out of alignment with who I want you to be. And that happens oftentimes is they want something for you that you or God doesn't want for you. I've learned that trying to people please is a form of manipulation. That can be true, Deborah. Thank you for that comment in the chat. So it can be a way of controlling other people's emotions, controlling the relationship. It can also come from a place of fawning, people pleasing, so survival mode, learned behavior to keep yourself safe. But the outcome of that often is controlling the relationship based on fear, usually. And so as we're talking about it, we get to examine, do you want that to continue? We have the opportunity to create the life that we want and to make shifts. So how many of you, I'm just curious, maybe you can raise your hand or put authentic in the chat, if one of your highest values and something in your noble character is authenticity. So this is something as I'm working with women and we are defining who are you, what is in your noble character. Many people say they want to be authentic. They want to be authentic in relationships. They want real, honest relationships. Is that true of you? Okay, thank you, Kimberly. Authentic, honest. Yeah, if that's you, if that's part of who you are, what's most important to you, if that's a character quality that you're building within yourself, okay, thank you, Deborah. I see you. Yes, authentic. Thank you, Betsy. I'm going to guess in this community, that's true for many of you. Okay, Wendy, I see you. So if you are controlled by fear and saying yes out of fear to others, if you are stepping into places that are beyond your limits because you're in fear of losing relationships, there is no honesty or authenticity in that. I'm just letting you sit with that for a minute. If you value authenticity and honesty in relationships, that means you need to be able to say yes sometimes when you really have that capacity. And you need to be able to say no when you don't have the capacity and it goes over your limits and you don't have those desires. So if you can't really say no, then you can't really say yes in relationships and mean it. So my encouragement to you is to begin to live out your noble self and your high value of authenticity by being honest with yourself and being honest in relationship about your capacity. So we talked a little bit about your limits and your capacity. And part of what was shared is your body begins to tell you. How else do you know your limits, your capacity? So in essence, we're talking about boundaries here. How do you know what your boundaries are? So if you're saying yes and have a sensation of resentment in your body or in your emotions, that most likely means you've crossed your own boundary. You haven't taken care of yourself well. You're not being honest with yourself, and you may be saying yes out of a place of fear. Fear of loss of relationship, fear of disappointing someone, fear of what it would mean about you in terms of your worth and your value. Yeah, so thank you, Barbara. You have a physiological reaction and negative energy stored in your body. Yeah, you just sense that in a way, don't you? If you're in tune with your body. So many of my clients that I work with have lost that ability to listen to their bodies because they've stopped doing that at some point, or they were taught early in childhood not to listen to their bodies. And so they've lost that ability to be in tune. And I think it's really important to regain that ability to know yourself, to assess what's going on within yourself. And when you're able to, so we talk about self-care, right? That's a common term in our society these days. Part of self-care means parenting yourself well, having good boundaries for yourself. Part of that, yes, is are you sleeping enough? Are you eating healthy foods for yourself and keeping yourself going? But the other part of that is just paying attention to what you need, what your body needs, what your limits are. Acting out of fear is not authentic. That's right, Dina. Yeah. It is not effective in terms of creating healthy relationships. If your relationships are driven by fear, there are not going to be healthy relationships. And there's not space for honesty in those relationships. So, Anne, I don't know, you said, I have not been able to sleep at all. I'm not sure what's going on in terms of your sleep. Perhaps it's related to this topic. So, the inability to say no sometimes brings up a lot of anxieties. If you're caught on people pleasing or taking care of other people, over functioning for other people, you may be in a place of constant worry or anxiety or exhaustion, where your mindset is not on what you most need, but you may be thinking about others. So you're welcome to put more in the chat if that feels safe to you, or to private message leslievernick.com/question/ if you have another question in there about sleep and how it relates to our topic. So Mary, I'm reading your comment. I find many times I value being kind, and people sometimes want to jump back like they don't trust. It's not manipulation. People have become so afraid that it's not real, but it's really just wanting to be kind so people feel special. Yeah, so wanting other people to feel special, I think that's a great motivator. So I don't know what that experience is. So they may have something going on in their history or even in their current situation that puts them on edge, that says, kind people must want something from me. And what is it they're trying to get? So that may be coming from a place of their own harm. But for you, Mary, I think it's great if you have the capacity to be kind in order to make others feel special or valued or cared about by you. That's great. But when we're talking about saying yes when you really want to say no, or you don't really have the capacity to say an honest yes, but you're saying yes anyway, and then you're taking the hit to that. So there is a lot of manipulation that happens in our society. And I think it has put people on edge with trust issues. Can I trust this? And if you don't know people very well, if they don't know your character well, they may have a hard time trusting. But as they get to know you and your character, and that's consistent, trust gets built over time. Yeah, and a fear of abandonment could keep you saying yes when you want to say no as well. And it could keep you in that place of feeling guilty if you say no. I'm just trying to catch up with your comments. How do you get back in tune? So if I'm reading your question correctly, how do you get back in tune with your body, with your sense of self? That's a great question. So let's talk about that. So if you have thoughts, those of you who are watching, how do you get back in tune when you've gone astray, when you've maybe abandoned yourself or broken trust with yourself? Maybe you've abandoned yourself. How do you get back to who you are? It may be really sitting down with yourself and examining, what do I value? What are my limits? What are the things that I'm responsible for? Who am I? And who am I not? What belongs to me and what doesn't belong to me? So you can reach a place of feeling very insecure about who you are when you've lost touch and you've lost being in tune with yourself. I do want to invite you, ladies. I'm going to take this moment when we are sort of halfway into our session, talking about how to say no without guilt. I want to invite you to our Insecurity Coaching Week that's going to be happening in June. So a couple weeks from now, we're taking 5 days to do this deep dive into insecurity and what that means. So if you don't have a strong sense of who you are, this is going to be really important for you. So moving beyond this insecurity challenge is free for members of Conquer. So if you're in our education and support group, if you're currently enrolled as a member, you can go to your dashboard and find the button to push to register yourself in that. Absolutely. If you are not a member currently in the Conquer group, it's only $17, ladies. That is an incredible price to take this deep dive. It's something we offered last year. It was really successful and I think really helpful to many. And we are doing it again this year. So if you want to take a deep dive into insecurity, that disconnection you have with yourself and kind of rebuilding up that sense of self, this is going to be really important to you. So you do need to register, and you can register at leslievernick.com/challenge. It is a one-time fee of $17, but we will meet Monday through Friday each day for 60 minutes in a live session that is not on social media. So you do have to be registered in order to get that link to join. But it is going to be a little bit different than we are doing today. So I love that you're interacting with me on the chat. But we're going to get an opportunity to do breakout rooms where you can communicate with each other, where we can be live in a Zoom room. So many of you will have an opportunity to speak. We are going to send you an email each day, Monday through Friday, with a practical exercise to help you move beyond insecurity. So we have various topics. Each day of the week is a new topic where you take a deep dive into one aspect of insecurity, and then we meet live to discuss not only that exercise, but go in deeper in those topics. So I would love for you to be able to join that. I don't get to see your faces when we are on social media, and I would love to be able to be with you in a virtual room to hear your voices and to share more with you personally about how insecurity has impacted you and how to move beyond it and how to get in tune with your sense of self. To begin to define what are your boundaries. That is a topic that we're going to be threading throughout the week. Is how do you know your limits? How do you know when you're saying yes out of fear rather than really being honest with yourself about capacity? So what are those dates again? That's a great question. We are going to be starting that on June 23rd is our first date, and that will go Monday through Friday. So 23rd through the 27th. And if you go to our page, leslievernick.com/challenge, you will see those specific dates and topics and the times that we're going to be discussing. That's the place where you can register as well, so that you make sure you get all of those emailed exercises, as well as the ability to attend with us live. And if you are a member of Conquer, there is no cost to you, but you do need to register. So that is a gift to you from Leslie Vernick herself, who values so much the women who are in the education and support group of Conquer. And it is also such a low fee for those of you who are not a member of that, $17 for the entire week. All right, so what questions do you have around how to say no? Continue to populate that. I just want to give you some information. So for those of you who may have a hard time saying no, if it feels new to you, if you have believed in the past that I need to say yes in order to have value or worth, or to hang on to this relationship, or I say yes because it's my responsibility not to disappoint others, it's going to be hard to say no. So here are some phrases that you can use. I can't commit to that right now. Sadly, I have something going on at that time. I wish I were able to, but I can't. Thank you for the invitation, but I'm going to have to sit this one out. And if you have one go-to for yourself, go ahead and put that in the chat as well. How do you say no in a way that is honest, but offers kindness and compassion? My apologies, I need to decline. I have to pass this time, but let me know next time. I apologize, my energy is focused elsewhere right now. Or I'm booked with existing priorities. I'm narrowing my focus to just a few commitments at the moment. I'm prioritizing my current plans above everything else at the moment. So those are just some of my ideas. What other ideas do you have? So I'm seeing in the chat, since many of you have just heard about Conquer, this is a group that will be opening in the fall. So you, if you go to leslievernick.com, you can see a place to add yourself on the wait list, but we are not currently accepting new members into Conquer. And then I see also you can go to assistant.leslievernick.com. That is in the chat for you as well if you have particular questions about Conquer. Today, we are really talking about the Insecurity Coaching Week Challenge that's happening this June on the 23rd. So if you have questions about that Coaching Week Challenge, go ahead and ask those in the chat. So it's important for your own well-being. So we talked about limits and boundaries and self-care, not to overcommit yourself. And that's practically in terms of your time and energy, but also overcommitting yourself to managing other people's lives, managing their emotions, taking responsibility for things that isn't yours, because we've already talked about that is not real help. Sometimes we can tell ourselves that I'm just being helpful or that's how I'm loving them, but overstepping or over-functioning for someone else is not really helpful. Yeah, Janice, thank you for your comment. I'm sorry, that doesn't work for me. Yes. And so we've given you lots of go-to phrases. It's helpful sometimes to just pick one of those that is general and universal that you can have at the tip of your tongue if you need to respond quickly. It's also okay just to take a pause and to ask yourself, do I have the capacity? If I'm honest with myself, do I want to say yes or do I want to say no? And if I say yes, what will it cost me in terms of integrity, self-respect? Because sometimes we can abandon ourselves for the sake of a relationship. And those are fear-based relationships where we're trying to hang on to a relationship while really diminishing ourselves. In relationships, boundaries are important. So many of us had been taught early on that boundaries are selfish, boundaries are bad, and they're not actually. Boundaries really help to create and sustain healthy relationships. Boundaries say, I matter and you matter. We are both important in this relationship. We both have the freedom to say yes. We both have the freedom to say no. So I think that is definitely a requirement in healthy relationships, freedom. And mutuality, reciprocity, those are the things we talk about in this community quite often that are paramount in healthy relationship. Overfunctioning has been passed down through the generations. Yes, that may be true of you as well, ladies. It's time to examine that. It's passed down through the generations. Do you want to continue it? And do you want to continue passing it down? Do you want to be the person who says, wait a minute, this is not working for me. I don't think this is how I'm called to live. So that when you're interacting with younger generations, they can get the information that you didn't have decades ago, right? We can pass down this knowledge and our experience and also model what healthy relationships can look like. I love to, but that doesn't work in my world right now. Thank you, Kimberly, for that statement. That's a good one as well. So viewing no, this is a mindset shift. Saying no is an act of self-respect and self-care sometimes. When it comes from an honest place, by saying no, sometimes you're saying yes to your own well-being, and you're not living out of fear in relationships. You may be saying yes to allowing other people to manage their own disappointment as well. Let me just check, are there any questions? Just pulling that up now, so thank you. To our tech team who's helping today, Nancy, I appreciate you being here, collecting those. All right. Is it okay to say no in marriage counseling with a spouse who you are separated from when they have been emotionally and verbally abusive and have not been faithful in your marriage, but have not taken ownership of their behaviors? Is it okay to say no to marriage counseling? Yes, I think it is more than okay to say no. I think it's actually healthy to say no because abuse is not a marriage problem. Let me say that again. Abuse is not a marriage problem. It creates marriage problems, but it's not a marriage problem. So you can't work on his abusiveness. Only he can do that. But if he pulls you into a room and calls it marriage counseling, my fear for you is what's going to happen is that it's going to become 50% your problem to deal with as well. And it's not. So your boundaries are 100% your issue to deal with. And I would encourage you to get strong and develop limits and boundaries for yourself. So you may need some individual coaching or counseling to help you with betrayal trauma, to also deal with the abuse, the effects of the abuse on you, and get yourself to a place where you don't tolerate abuse and that you can get to a place of safety. That could be really important for you. But in terms of marriage counseling in an abusive relationship, no, I think it's not productive. It's not helpful. And so saying no to that, I think, is a wise decision. So thank you for that question. All right, our next question. My husband is a covert narcissist. We've been married for 30 years. He's been very verbally abusive and has always acted in disdain or contempt towards me. However, I feel guilty for leaving him. But I also know the real abusive man will come out again after the crying and tears. How do I cope with the guilt? So let me ask you this question. What is more painful for you? Is it the guilt, the feelings of guilt, or is it the reason behind the guilt? So have you examined what's behind the feelings of guilt? So we define guilt as moving away from who you want to be or who God is calling you to be. So what in your actions has gotten you out of alignment? Defining that can be really important because oftentimes it's this feeling of guilt that keeps us stuck, rather than if we take the time to examine, what am I feeling guilty over? That can bring some clarity in order to help you cope. So it may be some mindsets that you've had, some belief systems, that it's wrong for me to leave him alone in the house. Is it wrong for me to stop cooking dinner for him? Is it wrong for me to not be present in the room with him? So getting really clear, what is it that you're feeling guilty about? Perhaps what may be happening for you is that you fear the real abusive man will come out. And I don't know if it's guilt. I'm just asking you some questions so you can examine what's going on. But there may be some fear there, which I would see why you're fearful. If he's honestly been diagnosed as a covert narcissist, there's very little chance there'll be change. If he's been diagnosed, and I can't diagnose that, and I'm guessing you're not trained to diagnose that either, but if he's been given that diagnosis by a trained professional, the likelihood is he's not going to change. And if you start having boundaries, he may escalate because he wants to hang on to you and he wants to manipulate you into staying. Part of that, maybe he's handing you a guilt trip. So we talked about that earlier. He wants you to feel guilty so that you don't leave. But in you examining your feelings of guilt, what am I doing wrong that's gets me out of alignment with who I am and who God's calling me to be, that can get some clarity in there. Is it actually guilt that you're experiencing? Safety planning for you, my dear, is going to be of the utmost importance. And so I would say definitely you need some support, some individual coaching or counseling, maybe calling even your domestic violence shelter to help you with safety planning around that. If you are fearing for his retaliation or his aggression in some way, first step for you is definitely safety planning. And I think getting yourself some support will help you really evaluate what's going on in terms of the inability to leave. Could be so many things going on for you. Trauma bonding, just trauma in general with that's keeping you from wanting to leave. So there's so much that we could say there. Thank you for that question. And that important thought of, sometimes saying yes is there to keep you safe, right? So you're saying yes to a man who's abusive so that he doesn't escalate and harm you. That makes sense why you do that, but is it sustainable? Is it sustainable? So over time, that's going to break down your body. It certainly is going to break down your sense of personhood and value and purpose. And that's not going to lead in a good direction long term. So finding alternatives. So in the short term, you may feel the need to say yes, but long term, what are you going to do for yourself to get out of that situation? So you don't have to be saying yes when you want to say no just to keep yourself safe. So stay close to this community. And if you need more support, please reach out and let us know how we can serve you better. As a caregiver of a disabled hubby and son, my limits are oddly in whether I have enough helpers. Are there backup plans? I overfunction out of necessity. Yeah, and my heart goes out to you. When there's disability, you're stretched. I hear you. And having backup plans, maybe not even plan Bs. I would say creating more plan As that help you be honest about your limits. And that may be hard to schedule, but it sounds like long-term. Again, in the short term, you overfunction out of necessity, but looking at the long term, how long can you sustain that before you're also disabled in some way, right? It is going to take a toll on your body if you continue to overfunction. And so creating a new plan A is probably important. So it's not just backup plans for when you're depleted, but that you're building in a lot of room for your own self-care. So I don't know your situation specifically to add more information about what your plan A could be, but I think exploring that is going to be important for you long-term for your own health and well-being. All right. And as of now, we just have one last question. So I do want to take that last question. If you do have more questions about the Insecurity Coaching Week Challenge, feel free to ask those either in the chat or to send those to Nancy at leslierunnick.com/question/. Or if you need help with how to say no without the guilt of disappointing someone, let me know. All right, this question says, I seem to have starts and stops with practicing new things. Well, you're human, so I'm not surprised to hear that. Sometimes I feel I get it, and other times I still feel so bound to those guilty feelings. Is that normal? Yes. it is natural that we have starts and stops when we're learning something new. Because oftentimes what happens is we don't see the results that we want right away. And then we want to fall back because it's hard work. Let's be honest, ladies. Growth, maturity, moving beyond insecurity, it takes a lot of work. It does take effort. And if we don't see the results we're looking for, sometimes we get discouraged and we give up. And so I would say to you, get some support, make a plan, and keep going even when it's hard. So you may need some support in order to maintain accountability, to kind of walk through this with somebody else. I am inviting you to this Insecurity Coaching Week challenge so that we can, at least for the week, do these things together and encourage one another in this area of growth to get yourself a good start. But I would say it does take commitment to the process, and practice makes progress, right? We're not going to be perfect. So oftentimes when we fall or make a mistake, we want to throw up our hands and say, I can't anymore. I tried. And it's important to keep going and knowing that it's natural to have these ups and downs. Growth is not going to look like a steady incline. It is going to be some ups and downs, starts and stops. It's that living moment by moment means I'll start again. I fell backwards. I'm going to start again, and keeping yourself going. And being bound to those guilty feelings you're saying. Again, it's about examining those belief systems. Where is that guilt coming from? What are the beliefs that are telling you you're doing something wrong? Is it wrong to say no? Is it wrong to take care of yourself? So sometimes those guilty feelings have been handed to us by others who are saying, you're not doing enough for me, rather than you examining, where is this coming from? Am I not living up to my own values? So keep examining that. We are going to have a day dedicated to guilt and shame in our Insecurity Coaching Week challenge. It's a whole day. I think it's the Wednesday. We're going to have an exercise that you can do that's emailed to you, and then we come together to talk more deeply about those topics. And if you're there, I would love to have you engage with us in that live Zoom meeting. Is it okay not to cook for him anymore or do his laundry? Everything is just about himself and blaming me for everything that he is feeling and is happening to him. So as I'm reading your first question, is it okay to not cook for him anymore or do his laundry? It's going to be really hard for me to answer questions about what feels okay for you. And this is about your own limits. And so there may be some insecurity in there is you're looking for me or this community to say to you, it is okay, when it's really you that has to feel okay with not doing those things anymore, and going to the why behind it. And I hear there may be some thoughts or feelings that it's not an equal relationship, that he's not caretaking you as much as you're caretaking him. And perhaps that's what you're feeling. So kind of examining for yourself, what is the why behind that? And how do you honestly communicate that to someone? So how do you have good communication to say, hey, this is not really working for me anymore. Cooking for you and doing your laundry isn't working for me because it feels like our relationship is unbalanced. So I don't want to ever put words in anybody's mouth, but there may be a discussion to begin to think about and to practice. So spend some time just being honest with yourself and exploring what's going on for you and what are your limits and why are those your limits, so that you can clearly show up for yourself. So the next question is, what about when people guilt trip you in a way that's threatening? That now I will take away something from you. Yeah, that's hard. So basically they're holding you hostage, right, with a threat. So I don't know what they're saying I'm going to take away from you. So this is going to be very individual to your situation. But I think the goal in that is to control you, to manipulate. That's not a healthy, honest relationship. And do you want to play in that game? So I would love to get real with you about that scenario and practice communication. That is something that we have the ability to do in our coaching week, is to role play and to practice communication. But getting real with what is the threat, and do you want to collude with that? Because I think the more that they guilt trip you, so put guilt on you, make you feel guilty, the more control they have over you, and you're living by fear that something's going to get taken away. So what does a balanced relationship look like? Or what does the requirements for boundaries for each other to complement each other in healthy relationships? So that's going to be individual for the particular relationship. But again, that deserves a discussion, right? There's got to be give and take in a relationship. If there is just one giver and one taker, it's going to be imbalanced. And so finding that balance is really between the two people in the relationship, about being honest about what they need and what they can give. All right, ladies. I'm just catching up in the chat for a minute. It's been good to be with you. I don't see any other questions, but I'm wondering, as we're closing out today, what has really resonated with you? What do you want to take away from this time together? So you've shown up. It's been nearly an hour of us being together. What has God impressed on your heart that you really want to take away into the next couple of hours, the next day, next couple of weeks? Maybe just to ponder, or maybe you have action steps for yourself. Perhaps it's that you'll take a pause and examine why you're saying yes, and to get honest with yourself. Is it to keep a sense of false peace? Is it because you have this idea that saying yes is nice, and that you're supposed to be nice? Maybe you have a belief that you are supposed to manage other people's feelings. So taking that pause can help you examine. Maybe it's the thought that generosity without boundaries leads to resentment, as we talked about, and beginning to notice resentment in yourself, how it feels in your body and in your emotions, so that you can begin examining your boundaries and creating limits for yourself. So boundaries are limits for yourself. They're not limits or control of other people. They're a way to parent yourself well and control yourself so that you feel safe and cared for. And if you have to abandon yourself in order to keep someone close to you in relationship, that isn't love, ladies. That's a relationship that's built on fear. And fear doesn't make good relationship decisions. So maybe that's what you're taking away from this today. You're going to ponder that, begin to examine your relationships a little bit. I appreciate your time today. We are going to be back live tomorrow when helpfulness becomes hurtful. So that's highly related to the topic that we had today. Are you doing for others what they should be doing for themselves? So join us back here live tomorrow at noon Eastern for that discussion. Thank you again for being here. Bye for now.